Okay, this is maybe a good time to do a little review regarding off-road riding on this KTM as a novice rider. So let's dive in. As I said, I thought it was a good idea to do a little review about how this bike rides off-road, especially as a novice rider. I'm not a Chris Birch or someone who's really experienced with off-road riding, but I do like it. I like it a lot. I think if I could choose what to do, or if I have only one choice, are you going to ride off-road or are you going to ride on the road for the rest of your life, I would definitely pick off-roading. I just really like it. I like the thrill of it. I like the challenge and I like the areas you can see. So I've had this bike for around a year now, and all the kilometers that I've done on this bike are almost all off-road. So I think I'm ready for a good review about riding off-road. So I need to clean this bike, so maybe, yeah, this is a good time to talk about it. So first off, let me share you my experience with my other bikes. At first, my first semi-off-road bike was my BMW GSA. I also had a BMW GS, but that, I never had the chance to put off-road tires on that bike, so I've never ridden it seriously off-road. But the GSA I've put off-road tires on, and I tried my first off-road. That bike was really heavy, but really easy to manage at low speeds, and the center of gravity was really low, so that really helped with off-roading. So the second bike I bought was a Ducati Desert X, and also that bike was a lot lighter than GSA. It was more catered towards off-road, and I've learned a lot of things on that bike. And the third bike, the bike I have right now, is the KTM 890 Adventure R. I've made a whole separate video about why I've sold my Ducati Desert X for this KTM, so I will not go into that. But let's say I'm really happy with this bike. So at first, off-roading with this bike, it's pretty easy. You have a lot of options with this bike regarding tires because of the 21-inch front wheel at the front, and of course I think the 18 at the rear. I have the Motorz Tractionator Adventure tires on this bike, and I think those are the perfect match between off-road riding and road riding. So I really like them. Of course, I've changed a lot to this bike, and not because I'm capable enough to notice all the differences. But yeah, it was just really fun to change all those stuff, like the steering dampener, dampener, I think, or damper, I'm not sure. Carbon panels, better tires, better brakes. Still, I think it's not really far from original KTM, especially if you take into consideration that I'm not a really experienced off-road rider. But regarding this bike and off-road riding, so you have multiple modes. You have the enduro mode, or I think that's only it's the off-road mode. Let me check. Ride mode, street, rain, off-road, rally. Okay, yeah, you have the off-road and the rally mode. I mostly did my off-road riding on the off-road mode because, as I said, I'm pretty much a beginner. So I don't want my throttle response to be too aggressive, and I don't want to have this bike break out a lot. But the last time I've ridden off-road, I've put it in rally mode. I did change the throttle response to a little bit more easy and gentle, and I had it in traction control or slide control 8, so that's not really at the maximum limit, but it's a little bit more limitless than original or than on the off-road mode. So yeah, I think the rally mode is just really fun, because if you put it in rally mode, I can show you right now, you can also change, please close throttle, you can also change the traction control or the sliding control on the fly. So if I put it down or up, I can change it. So 1 is the max and 8 is the, yeah, how do you say that? Not the max. So that's really nice, and also your display changes a lot. So I really like that you have a really big information about which gear you're in, and not particularly which speed you're riding, because that's a little bit less interesting when riding off-road than knowing which gear you're in. So yeah, that's really nice. I really like the mode. Now, talking in normal terms about this bike, just how do I experience riding on this bike off-road? Let me go to a little bit more less let me go to a little bit less wind, and I will talk. Okay, let's first talk about the weight. This bike is around 220 kilos wet as standard, and with my adaptation I think that's around 215 kilos wet. Still a heavy bike, but the big plus of this bike is that the weight is really down low. So if you look at the figures, you're thinking, okay, this is a pretty heavy bike, but if you ride this bike, it feels, yeah, a lot lighter. I think if I would say a number, I will say it feels like 180 kilos, not like 200 plus. So that's really a good thing. It's also really easy to pick up because of the weight, and it doesn't tip over completely, because you have a, yeah, how do you say that? You have the fuel tank, which is on the side. Also a big plus, because of the fuel tank you don't need any crash bars, which is really nice, and that also saves a lot of weight. Throttle response is really good. You can really ride it precise. For example, I've also ridden a T7. It was a really short ride, but still. And on that bike the throttle response feels a little bit lazy. So on this bike it reacts immediately, which is really good when riding off-road. You can really dose it a lot. Also the brakes, the clutch is really good when riding slowly. I did have sometimes that I put it in neutral because of my big boots, but it really depends on which boots I'm wearing. The foot packs originals, I can't say anything about that, because I've changed my foot packs pretty how do you say that? Because I've changed my foot packs at the beginning for Fanage ones. But regarding riding position, I do think that this bike is also really good when just riding like this, sitting, but also standing up. Yeah, it has a really natural precision, which is really nice, and some bikes don't have that. You can also change your position. You can also put it a little bit more in front or a little bit more at the back, and you can also twist the bars, of course. But for me, this is the perfect riding position for riding off-road. So the weight is good. The engine, yeah, if I put it in rally mode, it's pretty good for experienced riders. I think experienced riders will get a lot of fun out of it, and unexperienced riders I would really recommend to put it in off-road mode. In off-road mode, because just that makes the bike a little bit more tame and easier to manage. Now, regarding tires, original Mitas tires are pretty good when riding in a little bit gravel, but not riding in mud or deep sand or something like that. Then I would highly recommend better tires. but in my case with the Moda tires it's just perfect. Also, what I also highly recommend is double take mirrors. If you're going on an MX track or something where you don't need your mirrors, you can easily pull them off. You don't need to use any tools, which is really nice. So that's also a really big plus. And of course I also recommend these kind of bark busters, just in case you drop the bike it doesn't break all the way. And I think these in combination with a good skip plate is almost in most cases everything you need with this bike. If you're going to do a really heavy terrain, I would recommend a steel skid plate or a carbon skid plate or an AXP together with some outside crash bars if that's possible, but I will highly recommend that. Also, changing modes is really easy, so yeah, if you go off-road it's really usable in the first gear and also in the second gear, and most of the times you don't reach the third or the fourth if you're going to do a really technical terrain. And in my case I'm almost always in the first gear. Yeah, so fine control is really easy to do on this bike. I think this bike is even better in some technical terrain. If you compare it to let's say the Desert X, I think that bike is more stable, more easier to ride if the terrain is not too technical. But if the terrain becomes technical, I think this bike is much easier to ride. So yeah, that's also a big plus of this bike. Let's clean the bike a bit. I'm thinking of laying it down because it's really dirty, as you can see. I think I'm going to just lay it down. So let me get back to you as soon as I've cleaned the bike. As you can see, it's dirty. It's in this case it's almost bulletproof. It doesn't wreck or anything like that. It's just really good. But as you can see, I do ride off-road. Let me get back to you and let's go to the final conclusions then. So it's as clean as it can be, and one thing about riding off-road, you should probably know that, is that as soon as the bike dries, it's dirty again. See a little bit on the top that I've missed. So clean as it can be. So final conclusions when riding off-road with this bike. As a beginner, as an expert, in both ways, in both situations, I would highly recommend this bike. It's a really easy bike, it's really fun. Just a good bike to ride off-road with. It's a little bit high, so you need to take that in mind, but even a normal 790 or 890 is really good to ride off-road. So that's it for the final conclusions. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was of help. If you have any questions, please let me know. And yeah, if you like this video, consider to subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye. If you want to see my newest video, tap here. If you want to see my recommended video for you, tap here. And if you want to subscribe, tap here. Thanks for watching. Tap here, or tap here.